Hi everyone. Today we're diving into the latest economic snapshot and what it means for the U.S. economy and beyond in 2025. The headline is that the U.S. is managing to hold up better than many expected, but there are growing risks on the horizon. Let's unpack what's driving things, what could slow down next, and most importantly, how it might affect you. So, where does the U.S. economy stand right now? Recent reports indicate that the U.S. economy is projected to grow around 2% in 2025. Now that might sound modest. To give you some perspective, in the first half of 2025, investment in information processing equipment and software accounted for a surprisingly large share of GDP growth. What this tells us is that even though consumer spending and other parts of the economy are starting to lose momentum, this boom in tech investment is a significant bright spot keeping the whole ship afloat. It's a fascinating dynamic where one sector is essentially carrying the weight for others. But, as you might guess, it's not all smooth sailing from here. Experts are flagging several key risks that we need to keep a close eye on. First and foremost is slowing consumer spending. Think about it. Wage growth is moderating. Inflation is still stubbornly high, and we're seeing fewer people entering the workforce due to slower immigration and population growth. All of this puts immense pressure on household budgets, which means people are likely to tighten their belts. The second major risk comes from tariffs and trade policy. Higher tariffs directly translate to higher costs for importers, and guess who ultimately pays for that? Us, the consumers. If more tariffs are introduced or existing ones are increased, it could act as a significant drag on the economy, slowing things down even further. Third, we have to talk about inflation and interest rate pressure. Some of this investment boom we mentioned earlier might actually be masking some underlying weaknesses in the broader economy. Experts are warning that if inflation stays elevated, we could find ourselves in a tough spot with a combination of weak growth and high costs, which would really squeeze the economy. So, the overall message is this. Yes, the U.S. is holding up for now, but many of the factors supporting this strength might be temporary or vulnerable to these pressures. So, what does all of this mean for everyday people and for businesses? Let's break it down. If you're a consumer, the reality is you might see prices remain high for longer, especially if new tariffs get passed on to you at the checkout. Your spending power could feel weaker than it has in the past. For all the job seekers out there, the picture is mixed. The economy isn't growing at a rapid pace. So, while unemployment rates might hold steady, you may notice that wage growth starts to slow down. The days of easily hopping jobs for a big pay bump might become less common. Now, for business owners and creators, the smart move here is crystal clear. Focus on technology, automation, and efficiency. Investment in AI is one of the few undeniable bright spots in this forecast. If your business can create value through automation, develop digital products, or leverage technology-led growth, you are aligning yourself with the economic tailwinds, not fighting against the headwinds. And finally, for investors, the key word is caution. The tech boom is undeniably strong, but this also creates concentration risks. A huge portion of the market's growth is being driven by just a handful of massive companies. If broad economic weakness does emerge, it could impact even these giants, so diversification and a careful approach are more important than ever. Looking ahead to 2026, the picture could get a little murkier. Growth could dip further, potentially to around 1.4% real GDP in a downside scenario, especially if all those headwinds we discussed start to accumulate and hit at the same time. However, there is an upside. If investment, particularly in AI, stays strong and we have a stable policy environment, the economy could defy expectations and perform better. In short, it seems we're living in a middle growth world. It's not booming, but it's not collapsing either. It's just in the middle. For creators and entrepreneurs, this environment sends a clear signal. You need to build business models that are lean, tech-enabled, and have a global reach. Because if overall economic growth slows, the ones who not only survive but thrive will be those who can create value faster than their costs increase. It's all about efficiency and innovation. So that's the latest snapshot for you. The U.S. economy is holding up, but there are definitely cracks appearing beneath the surface. For you, the main takeaway should be to lean into the areas of strength like tech, AI, and automation. Be cautious about relying on rapid consumer growth and start preparing for a world where slower, steadier growth is the new normal. If you found this breakdown useful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more economic analysis, creator strategy, and digital business insights. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.